A new horizon is waiting for you. A new day is dawning for love that's true. God's love revealed. God's love revealed. God's love revealed. Let him reveal his love to you. Hello, and welcome to God's Love Revealed, where the love of God is made alive in you. I'm excited about this show, and today, a special guest that I have. My spiritual daughter, I love her dearly, Heather Hartflow, is here in the studio, and I'm excited for her to be here on today. She's going to tell you her story, how she was in the sex industry for 12 years, and God redeemed her with his love. Welcome, Heather, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited for you being here.
I am excited.
Oh wow, it's just been awesome to see the transformation God has brought in your life. And it's all for his glory. And so I just thank him, and he's got some awesome things just waiting for you to walk into. But right now we're here today, and you're going to tell us a little bit about your story. So how did you start in this sex industry? How did it happen?
The sex industry introduction, I believe, began with just a void, an empty space on the inside of me. What I realized is that I spent, out of those 12 years, I was trafficked. And trafficking is truly an epidemic here in the United States.
It is.
Human trafficking is actually the second largest global industry producing revenue.
Wow.
The revenue coming in through the sex industry and trafficking and porn is bigger than the NBA, the NFL, and
Wow.
the Major League Baseball sales combined.
Wow.
It is actually a global industry, and I didn't even know that's what it was. At the age of 18, I was released out of foster care,
Okay.
and I found myself in a situation where I was homeless, sleeping in the back seat of an abandoned car, and I didn't have a network of support in place.
Yeah.
I didn't have mentors. I didn't have family. There was a breakdown in the family structure. There were levels of poverty in that structure. And there were true vulnerabilities that existed on the inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know who I was. I didn't know who I could trust. And I was pretty vulnerable. And so all of those factors together really kind of opened the door for an opportunity. And I answered an ad in the paper, going into what I thought was a restaurant, seeking a waitress job. And I walked into the middle of a strip club. Back then in the late 80s, early 90s, strip clubs were not glamorized like they are today. The hypersexualization of glamorization in the strip club industry is so prevalent today. You can go to places in Indianapolis and they're lit up, they're big, they're painted, they're beautiful, they advertise. They're attractive.
Mm-hmm.
Back then it was not like that. So going in, answering an ad to be a waitress, they looked at me, they seen I was young, and they said, come back tomorrow with a pair of heels and a bathing suit, and we'll give you a job as a dancer. And the idea for coming in the next day was to pair me with someone else older in the industry who knew how to manipulate, move, and groove, hustle, make money, and teach me and train me and groom me. It was really a grooming process that started right there. And at that time, not knowing who I was and my identity, not really knowing what my purpose was on earth, that grooming process was pretty quick.
Wow. Heather is also an author and a speaker, and she wrote a book called Love's Redeemed Daughter, The Reflection of Nyla. Is that when that altered identity was created?
Yes. When you're introduced into the sex industry, it's because it's so glamorized like Hollywood, one of the first things they want to do is they want to change your name.
Okay.
And in changing your name, they change your identity, and you really have to become someone else. A lot of girls in that industry suffer from major addiction because there's alcohol, there's coke, there's weed, there's pills, and it's really just that whole grooming process that helps you numb, become someone else, so you can continue to hustle and make money.
Well, I really believe that there's a God space, and when God doesn't fill that space, people tend to fill it with other things that does not satisfy. And I believe it alters who God has called them to be, who God has called you to be. So how did you get, what was the breaking point for you to change and begin to see this is not what God wants for my life?
I think the breaking point came through a process. There was a process of a breaking point. I grew up going to church with a neighbor who believed in God, who prayed over me, and I really believe that kept me throughout the years. When I was young, I had a relationship with the Lord, like around 11 or 12. So there were some things that I always knew were true against everything else that I was being taught that wasn't. And I think the breaking point came just after years and years and years of just it's a recycling cage. You can never stop in that industry. You can never stop. You can never take a break. You can never just sit down and rest and relax. You can't, because your money is made every time you dance. Your money is made every time you do a private dance. Your money is made every time you take a customer out of the club. You can't stop. So I think my breaking point came, I got really tired of I got tired of people grabbing on me. I got tired of people not seeing me. I could sit down and have a real conversation with a customer one-on-one about my real life, and they didn't care none about that. I was faceless because the objectification of women is so prevalent. They are purchasing a product. They don't want to hear your story. They don't want to know your heart. They don't want to know if you have kids. They don't want to know none of that stuff. They want to know what you're shaped like, and can I have you, and for how long? And so the breaking point came when I really started to feel like I was made for more, but I didn't know what that more was.
Wow. That's pretty powerful. Oh, wow. I tell you. Okay. So you got into writing. Is that a way to release some of the pain that you was going through? A way to just tell your story? A way to process out of that?
Yeah.
Were you writing back then before you ever started writing a book?
The writing was really interesting. The writing evolved over time. I was married for about 10 years when I decided to climb out of that industry the first time. And I jumped right into a marriage that was very abusive for about 10 years.
So let me make sure I'm clear. I want the listeners to make sure we're clear. So you was in the sex industry before you got married. And then you got married.
And then I went back.
And then you went back.
And then I went back, yes.
Okay. Continue.
So during the time I was in the first time, 5 years, I knew if I stayed, I was going to die. I had watched girls OD. I had watched girls found dead in abandoned buildings, never came back, left with customers. And I knew I had to make a decision the first time. So, and my addiction at that time, I had a cocaine addiction, and my addiction was to the point where either the drugs were going to take me, or I was going to put myself in a situation that could possibly end my life. I jumped out and jumped into a marriage for about 10 years. And that marriage was marked by domestic violence. But because I never had anything stable, I stayed. And it was during that time that an argument or wanting to fight back for myself, it became abusive. I was hit for it. I was slapped for it. I was choked for it. I've had to grocery shop with black eyes. And so what I did was I picked up a pen one day, sitting at the kitchen table, mad, and I started to write, F you, you son of a so-and-so, because I wanted to cuss him out so bad, and I wanted to just say it because I was starting to direct my anger on my children. And so I just started writing cuss words on paper. And then I
Okay.
would ball them up and throw them and tuck them down at the bottom of the trash so no one would ever see
Wow.
them.
That's a form of casting. Isn't
Yeah.
that good? I never thought about that. Casting your cares. That's
Yes.
good.
And then,
Okay.
like a month later, I kept writing, and then
Wow.
it turned into prayers. And it was like, Lord, help me, God, out of this situation. And that's when I began to realize that I was so broken that I was not even able to pray for myself. But through writing, I was able to see that I was
That's
writing
powerful.
a prayer. And so those I started to collect and keep, but I hid because I never wanted him to see. And just over the years, the writing just evolved into poetry and spoken word
Wow.
and the books that we have
Wow,
here
that's
today. Yeah.
That is so powerful. So that's why you help people who've hidden their words on the inside, afraid to let them out. You help them bring out the pain through
Right.
writing.
Right.
That's powerful.
Right.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm excited. That is wonderful. So you have a couple books here, Love's Redeemed Daughter, The Reflection of Nyla, and you have another one here, Sapphire and the Scarlet Letters. And you have 1 and 2, Words Have Wings.
Mhm.
Let's talk a little bit about Words Have Wings.
Words have wings. The title came from the scripture that says the power of life and death is in our tongue.
Oh, yeah.
And we have the ability to tear people down, and we have the ability to build people up.
Yes.
And so our words do grow wings, and they do fly, and they do turn into something. And so Words Have Wings 1 and 2 is a 7-week curriculum.
Okay.
A 7-week creative writing curriculum to help people process trauma through creative writing. And so there's writing prompts, and we take haikus, which is 575 syllables.
Okay.
A line of 5, a line of 7, a line of 5, and we take a complete thought.
Okay.
And we process it and we put it into a haiku. So what we do is we take people's emotions and we take what's been on the inside. A lot of people won't talk to people they don't know. And some people only talk to people they trust. And sometimes the one they trust that's in their circle can't even give them the advice that brings life that they need. So therefore, if we can get them in a group and we work through the curriculum on a weekly basis, we are able to take what's in them, put it on paper, process that. And some people are so amazed at what they actually write.
Wow.
Because they didn't even know that that's how they were feeling.
Okay.
And to get all of that out really helps the process of healing.
I want to try that.
Move
That seems
along.
like it's going to be pretty interesting. I'm looking forward to trying that myself.
Yeah.
So how can one get into this process of being able to get into their words to write it on paper? How can we get a hold, how can they get a hold of doing this?
Right now, the Pendor Publishing is
it's a self-publishing. You publish.
Yes, I have self-published all of these
Right.
books myself, and Pendor Publishing is the name I came up with to start an organization to help people process their trauma through creative writing.
Okay.
And we also want to take some of the authors and writers that we are working with and help them launch their own poetry books, help them launch their own memoirs. So right now, PendorPublishing.org is the website, and we have monthly online poetry submissions.
Okay.
So every month we blind select about 5, maybe 6 new writers, and we take their poetry and we publish it for free on the website, and then we also help promote it and launch it on social media so they can get on there and be a published writer, and they can share it. It gets the name out.
That's awesome.
It gives people a launching pad to really process what they've been through and get it out and get their name out to be able to, especially if they want to write, if they want to do something like that as a career, we provide that opportunity.
Awesome. You also as a speaker, right?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes.
And so if you want to get a hold of you, if they got some kind of event they need you to speak and encourage, how can they get in touch with you?
They can actually go to PendorPublishing.org and hit the contact us, fill out that form. I have spoke at quite a few events over the years.
Okay, tell us a little bit.
Sharing my story, just either keynote or workshops or panel discussions. I've worked with Indiana's Trafficking Victims Assistance Program here in Indianapolis, co-teaching and training law enforcement in trafficking, training nurses and how to recognize the signs and trafficking victims when they come through the emergency rooms and things like that, or they're through their clinic doors. And so I share my story, and I do spoken word.
Awesome.
And sell books.
Wonderful. I'm so excited about what God is doing in your life. I just know doors are opening, and you have great opportunities that's awaiting you. So I'm just so proud. I'm excited. I'm glad to know you.
Thank you.
It's been a privilege and an honor. Me and Heather met at a event where she walked into a church. She thought it was the wrong church, but God said, no, you're at the right place at the right time. And Heather is going to share with us a poem at the end of our show, and I'm so excited for her to share what the Lord has given her on her heart to show with us today. So I'm so excited. I just want to tell a little bit. She walked in that church, and when she walked in that church, she said, oh, I think I'm in the wrong church.
I was in the wrong church.
Well, at the time.
I was in the wrong church 2 hours late for a service.
But you was on time,
that
baby.
I didn't even know I was going to.
I know, but you was on time. You was on God's time, and you didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
Because when she walked in, at the time, I was doing a marriage supper banquet where we was doing a mentor class for young ladies, and they was marrying the Lord. And so when she walked in the church and sat down, I heard the Holy Spirit say, that's one of my brides. And so at the end of service, I prayed for her. She came up, and the word of the Lord began to come forth for her. And I told her what the Lord said. And she went through the process and became his bride. And I tell you, that was one of the processes of you stepping out for the last time that you went into the sex industry. And never to return again. Yeah. Never to return again.
I used to think you were crazy.
Oh, wow.
I used to think you were crazy because I gave you my phone number. And you would not call me in the daytime. You would call me on a Friday or a Saturday night at like 11 or 12 at midnight. You knew I was working the clubs at the time.
Yeah.
And I would look at my phone. I'm like, why is this lady calling me at this time on a Friday or Saturday night at midnight? She knows where I'm at. But I remember one time I would try not to answer your calls. But one time I answered your call, and I remember you said, I just wanted to tell you that where you are is not who you are. And God has a plan for you. And I remember that night, it was monumental.
Praise
because
God.
The Lord had already started to deal with my heart through meeting you and you being my friend, and you being my friend with no motive but to be my friend.
Yes.
And that when you told me that, it just really began to just minister to me in a way that set the stage for my exit.
Wonderful. I tell you, God is on time. He loves us. And I want to say to those who are listening, you are not your behavior.
That's right.
God loves you, and he's purposed you for destiny. You came here with a plan, and your life will not be satisfied until you fulfill what God has called you to be before the foundation of the world. So be encouraged. That's what this whole program is all about. God's love being revealed to you, that you will hear stories where God has brought people out of some hard places and some places that wasn't life for them, but God loved them so much that he brought them out so they can begin to walk in who he's created them to be. So I just want to encourage your heart today. Just like Heather came forth and walking now in her destiny, you too can come forth and be all that God has called you to be. That's what this program is all about. God's love being revealed in you, that his love can come alive in you, and that you can be all that he's called you to be. So at this time, we're going to get ready to hear a poem from Heather.
Today I'm reading a poem out of the Reflections of Nyla, Love's Redeemed Daughter. They call you, I call you. They call you a whore. They call you a slut. They call you one of them girls that likes to. They call you short. They call you tall. They say your waist ain't small. They call you a nobody, a girl with multiple baby daddies. They say your life is jacked up and you only roll with guys with money and caddies. I have called you my beloved, my precious child. I say that the devil and all of them got you beguiled. I have called you my beauty and the apple of my eye. I come and bottle your tears up every time you cry. I'm the one that sings songs of freedom over you at night while you sleep. I am the one whose thoughts of you I keep. I think thoughts of you that are more numerous than the sands of the sea. I wait for you to wake up, hoping you will acknowledge me. My love and my passion for you, I am tenderly by your side. I gave my life for you, had to go to a cross and die. But I died to open heaven's gates for you, to give you more abundant life on earth. I just need for you to open up your eyes and see all that you're worth. You were made for more. Thank you.
Wow, what an awesome poem. Heather, that was so good. Oh, to God be glory. I thank God for you. Again, can you tell us how we can purchase these books?
Yes, every one of those books are available on Amazon. If you go to Amazon and you type in at the top in the search bar Heather Heartflow, you will find all 5 books.
Wow, that's exciting. Well, I'm so glad that Heather was able to join us. Thank you again for coming
Thank you.
and
Thank you
sharing
for
your
having me.
life. And I'm quite sure somebody heard something that will deliver them today. And thank you for listening to God's Love Revealed, where the love of God is made alive in you. See you next time. God bless you.
God's love revealed.